to them also and gave thanks for them also and told the disciples to distribute them. The people ate and were satisfied. Afterward, the disciples picked up 7 basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over. How many basketfuls of leftovers did they have in the Jewish area in chapter 6?
12, I think.
12, was it not?
12, exactly. And they had 12 basketfuls because of why?
12 disciples.
12 disciples, and in the Jewish area, why would 12 be important?
12 tribes.
12 tribes. Perfect, perfect. Now, did they only have 7 basketfuls of leftovers because they were in a Gentile area? Or because they only fed 4,000? Why do you think the number 7 pops up? What
The number of completion.
It's good, very good. It's a number of completion, but what do we know about Rome? Because Mark's writing to the Romans and they're in a Gentile area. What do we know about Rome?
I'm reading your
7
notes,
hills
so
around.
that's good.
Rich,
7 hills.
Yep, Rich said 7 hills. When Rome was founded, it was founded with 7 hills. 7 hills encompass the area. So Mark is tying this in so the Romans, his Roman readers, could go, oh, wow, 7 baskets left over.
Yeah.
Enough for every hill in Rome. So, just amazing. Just amazing.
Plus, you have in here 7 kings.
There were 7 kings in Rome before, in between I think it was called the Roman, there's something, then it became the Roman Empire, Great Roman Empire. So yeah, 7 kings also. So yeah, it's just amazing the way the Bible works out.
In a question, Pastor,
Yes,
in
sir.
verse 5, how many loaves do you have? Was he collecting the food from the disciples or from the hungry people?
That's a good point. Because we know in chapter 6, they got the food from the people. Now, I'm kind of thinking that he's asking the disciples for how much bread they had. Maybe Jesus is trying to impress upon them, we have to share what we have. So very good point, Gary. I'm glad you brought that up. I don't know, but I'm thinking he's asking the disciples. Also, one thing that we don't have here that we had in chapter 6 is we don't have people sitting down in groups like the Roman legion, because that information doesn't have to be given to people in the Gentile area because they already know that. So absolutely amazing what the Bible gives us. So they fed people, they got into the boat, and they went to the region of Dalmunutha. So they're going back over to the Jewish side. So as soon as they get over to the Jewish side, guess what? Here comes trouble. The Pharisees came and began to question Jesus. To test him, they asked him from a sign from heaven.
What kind of sign?
Didn't they get enough? They've seen all these miracles.
They were bullies.
They were. They continue to try to trap Jesus. They've seen all these miracles. They've seen his astounding preaching, and they still want to see more. Jesus sighs deeply and said, "Why does this generation ask for a sign? Truly I tell you, no sign will be given to it." Because Jesus knows, no matter what I do for these people, they're not going to believe me. So you're not going to get anything. Remember in Matthew, Jesus tells them the only sign you're going to get will be the sign of Jonah. What was the sign of Jonah?
The rainbow.
No, Jonah.
Oh, Jonah?
Jonah, yeah.
The fish?
3 days in the
3
fish.
days. and
3 days in the fish. Now, 3 days in the belly of the fish, what does that sound like?
Oh,
Resurrection.
right. 3
Absolutely,
days in the
absolutely.
tomb.
So Matthew fleshes it out a little bit more because the Jews he's writing to would know about Jonah, right? The Romans have no idea who Jonah is, so Mark doesn't even waste his time. So he just has Jesus saying, forget it, you're not going to get any signs because you wouldn't believe me anyway. And he goes on his way.
Didn't in Jesus' trial that Pilate and several people wanted a miracle to be shown, Herod?
Yeah, Herod wanted to see a miracle because he just wanted to see a show. That's the kind of guy Herod was, especially in Jesus Christ Superstar.
Oh my gosh, yes. He's a showman.
Yeah.
Dances and, you know.
If we can, well, we're not gonna
Walk across my swimming pool.
Yeah, so
Turn
maybe we should
water
show.
into wine.
Yeah,
So maybe we should show
Yeah.
Jesus Christ Superstar, maybe on Holy Saturday. So how about that? We gather here. We watch Jesus Christ Superstar. Anybody who can come.
Godspell was a good one too.
Yeah.
I like Godspell too. Jesus
I
Christ
have that
Superstar is a little bit more rocky though.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit more hard rock, kind of like
the old version.
the old version, the original version.
Yeah, when they're on a bus and.
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay, so I digress. Now we're talking about yeast. For us, yeast is a good thing, right? A little bit of yeast makes the bread rise, then we have some good bread. Here, what Jesus is talking about, and throughout the Old Testament we see this too, the point about yeast is it only takes a little bit of yeast to affect a lot of flour. So the point Jesus is making is it just takes one nasty person to infect a whole bunch of people. So he's starting to talk about the Pharisees. And he's saying it only takes one of you people to destroy all these Jewish people. Of course, the disciples don't get it. And Mark lets them have it.
Because we have no bread.
Yeah, verse 16. They discussed this with one another and said, he's talking about yeast because we didn't bring the bread. Aware of their discussion, Jesus asked them, why are you talking about having no bread? Do you still not see or understand? Are your hearts hardened? Do you have eyes to see? Do you have eyes but fail to see and ears but fail to hear? And don't you remember, Jesus is saying, I just fed like 20,000 people with just a couple loaves of bread. You guys forgot already? And I broke the 5 loaves for the 5,000. How many basketfuls of pieces did you pick up? 12, they replied. And when I broke the 7 loaves for the 4,000, how many basketfuls did you pick up? 7. He said to them, and you still don't understand.
Wait, he's picking on them good.
Mark, like I said, Mark really nails the disciples. So he must have pictures of the disciples doing bad stuff.
Time to put the dunce hat on.
yeah. I'll tell you, Mark really,
Politically correct.
yeah, politically incorrect. He really nails these guys. So they came to Bethsaida, and some people brought a blind man and begged Jesus to touch him. He took the blind man by the hand and led him outside the village, once again taking him away from people so they can't see. When he had spit on the man's eyes and put his hands on him, Jesus asked, do you see anything? He looked up, the man looked up and said, I see people, but they look like trees walking around. So I'm thinking that the guy just saw the images, like maybe outlines. Once more, Jesus put his hands on the man's eyes, then his eyes were opened. His sight was restored, and he saw everything clearly. Jesus sent him home, saying, don't even go into the village. And some versions say, don't even go to the village and tell people about this. So, why do you think the healing didn't happen immediately this time? Why do you guys think?
The faith. He didn't have the faith.
No. Could be. Could be. What could be another reason?
Step surgery, if he's not used to seeing, his brain isn't hardwired yet.
That
And
could
so
be.
then he finished
That
the
could be.
job.
A lot of commentaries say this is another way that Mark got back at the disciples. Because he put this healing right after the story where they don't get it. They don't understand. They keep asking Jesus, what are you doing? So Jesus is showing them Sometimes healing takes a long time. So Jesus might be trying to comfort the disciples in saying, okay, I understand that you guys don't know who I am yet, but sometimes it takes time. Sometimes it takes twice for healing to happen. Sometimes it happens immediately. Now that's what some commentaries say. I kind of lean to that. That Jesus, being compassionate of the disciples, is telling them, you're going to learn. Just relax.
That's kind of like us. It takes us a while to progress through our faith.
Yeah,
It doesn't
it
happen
does.
overnight.
It's a long journey. It's a long, long journey.
Under construction.
That's right. Yeah, we are under construction. Peter declares that Jesus is the Messiah, beginning in verse 27. So Jesus and his disciples went on to the villages around Caesarea Philippi. And we remember from our studies in Matthew that Herod renamed the town to honor Caesar, but also his brother who was Philip, Herod Philip, or however the names worked. On the way, and they're in a Gentiles area now too, so Jesus says, who do people say I am? And they replied, some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and still others one of the prophets. So this is what all the Jewish people thought. They didn't understand who Jesus was. And unfortunately, the disciples are probably in the same boat. Clueless. And Jesus says, well, what about you guys? Who do you say I am? And Peter answered, you are the Messiah. So Peter got it right. Peter is, remember, in the inner circle with James and John, so he's seen probably a little bit more than the other disciples have seen. Jesus warned them not to tell anybody about him. Same thing. This message isn't ready to get out to the Jewish people. Jesus has to hold on to it. Verse 31, he then began to teach them that the Son of Man, now remember that's Jesus' favorite term for himself, must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, and the teachers of the law, and that he must be killed and after 3 days rise again. He spoke plainly about this, but Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. But when Jesus turned and looked at his disciples, he rebuked Peter. Get behind me, Satan. Now, why do you guys think that Jesus was so hard on Peter after he just got the right answer? Why did Jesus call Peter Satan?
Because he knew where it was coming from.
He knew where it was coming from, and Peter's just thinking about himself, right? He's not thinking about God's plan. Jesus has to die. And Peter is just thinking about human things, which Satan probably twisted him just a little bit. Then he called the crowd to him along with his disciples and said, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. Now here is another way that Mark is speaking to the Roman people. The Roman people would know that the criminals always have to carry their cross because it was a sign of the Romans having power over the people that they were punishing. So Mark is telling the Romans that are reading this, Jesus wants his disciples to be the same way, that they have to pick up their cross and they have to expect to be punished. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it. Now the Greek word for life means either life or soul. So here Jesus is really talking about salvation. If you want to hold on to your earthly life, you're going to give up your soul and you will lose your eternal soul. So Jesus is giving him a big clue.
At this point, has Jesus started to reveal his death and resurrection? Or will that come?
In Mark, I think this might have been the first time, Gary, that it reveals it. In Matthew, we know that he reveals his death and resurrection 3 times. So I would expect we'll see the same thing in Mark. So this is the first time the disciples don't believe it, and we're going to see how it happens, how it rolls out in the next couple chapters. And Jesus wraps it up nicely with the last couple verses. If anyone is ashamed of me and my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, the Son of Man will be ashamed of them when he comes in his Father's glory with the holy angels. Now, I think that's a good message for all of us would-be evangelists. If we're not willing to share what we know, and we're not willing to testify to what God's done in our lives, that might have an impact on how Jesus is going to look on us. So we should never be ashamed to tell people who we are and whose we are. And we should spread the good news as often as we can. Amen?
Amen.
Amen. All right.
Sometimes we have to count the cost of following Jesus.
Yeah.
You know, it's not always going to be an easy path.
Very seldom is it easy, right? If we do it right. So let's make sure that we pick up our cross and we follow Jesus fully. And realizing that it's not always going to be easy. We might lose some friends, we might even lose some family members. But it's better to work for Jesus and suffer a little bit here on earth than to have him deny us in the future. So I thank you guys for being with us, for joining us. Chris, I'll make sure you get an invite every week. And next week, we're going to be reading chapters 9 and 10.
Do you have Jeanette or Jeannie Downing add what's her name to the list for tomorrow? Prayers.
Oh, I'll talk to Gene.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, guys, we'll see you tomorrow. Well, I'll see you, Gene. I'll see you, Chris. And I'll see everybody else on Sunday. So God bless you. Bye-bye.
Give me Chris Longshaw's email address.